May I ask the two other speakers also, please, to the floor, because we've been throwing information at you now for quite a while. Very interesting information, as far as I can see, talking about my colleagues' presentations. Now it's really time for you to comment on this information and to ask questions. Are there any questions? Sabine.
Yeah, I think all the three presentations were really, really interesting. But I have just one question to Jane. I was listening very attentively to what you have been saying, and I wonder whether you have any studies or any research done so far on the impact after the students have left the college. Does this healthy education has any positive impact on their future life? I mean, do they behave differently? Do they take something home? Does it have a ripple effect in their family, in society, or whatever? I mean, that would be really interesting if that has a long-lasting effect, let's say, this healthy college education.
$64 million question. Oh, that is the hard one. But, I mean, I personally have feedback because I have students that have attended the weight loss classes and then have gone on to be fitness instructors because they've realised they've enjoyed the health and fitness side so much, they've gone and trained in it. So that was just like such a fantastic story that we had. But there are others where, when I used to teach gym instructing, I would be talking about nutrition and they would come back to me and they'd say, well, you know, I've gone home, I've told my mum and dad about all the new, what we should be buying in, and they won't do it. And you know, then that's quite hard. But I feel it does have a massive effect because the students tell me, they're drinking more water and they're eating better, and they tell me that they're never going to drink Diet Coke again because I've just told them the horrors of it. Seriously. So I know it has an effect, but it's very hard to get that onto paper. Once they have left the college, for us it's almost impossible because once they've left, how are they going to tell us what they've done? Yeah, absolutely, yeah, last few years. So, but I personally know from people what they've told me that it does have a massive effect, yeah.
To link up with this particular question, so can families also be involved through the students, through their kids, let's say? Can they also be involved in this project?
Doing the 24,000 students and 1,800 staff, it's a big, big project. So it's very hard to even just get to those. But I do think it's really important that the families are included. But that is something that we would work on as an individual rather than anything else. If they said, come, so on the weight loss, if they wanted to bring their family in, I've always offered to do work with the family because usually that's where it starts as well. So it's really important. But it's on an individual basis for us. It's quite hard.
Alicia?
So my question is for all the three. I want to switch the view on the future, so the perspective for the future. How the definition and meaning of unhealthy or healthy lifestyle will change, if in your opinion will change?
How the definition?
Healthy or unhealthy lifestyle for the future. Will you define the same way as you define it today in the future?
Maybe the social medicine expert first?
I think the big factors in lifestyle will be the same as they are now, and it will be nutrition, it will be exercise, mainly both of them. We hope that it won't be smoking anymore, but I'm not sure about that. And the impact on health surely will be the same. So we heard in the morning that 80% of cardiovascular diseases, or stroke, or myocardial infarction, and so on, are attributable to lifestyle factors. This will also be more or less the same in the future. I think the main question is not how big will the influence be of lifestyle measures. It will be how can we change lifestyle measures on population basis.
Would anybody like to comment on this particular question?
Just nutrition from my and nutrition, they are getting worse. They really are. So, I mean, that's going to be the big one in the future, as far as I'm concerned.
I think we, in the future, will. I don't think we have seen the top yet. I think it will get worse. America is much worse, and we are always 10 years after America. But I think that it will not get as worse as we see it in UK today, where 60% now are unhealthy, overweighty, for example. I see a lot of initiatives. We start sports, kindergarten. We set up physical aims for our children. But I think we'll need to take in the family, to raise new parents, to be good parents in a modern welfare society. Because I think this is very much about welfare. That we are the first generation in many countries who has to raise our children in a welfare where we don't need to say no that often, where we can transport our children by car. So I think we need to educate as a part of the kindergarten how to take care of the children. I know that in England that one of the main reasons to take children away from a family now is bad racing, as far as I have been reading, right? Bad racing, that you don't take care of the physical health of the children, that they are 80 kilos when they are 7 years, 10 years old, and so on. But I also think that if my answer to Sabine knows something about the effect, we know that the effect don't last. We can manage the young students to start to take care of the physical activities, that they train regularly every week, that they start doing in the spare time also when they are in the college. But as soon as they have left the college, we know that they stop. They don't transfer this new experience that is good to make physical exercise to go to fitness centers or to go to a sports club. Then they just stop. And that's why we now in Denmark are discussing this, that we need to start the opportunity. If you start your new physical exercise life at our college, you can also continue afterward when you've left the college. That we also run a sport association with a wide range of sports activity, because especially for our students who are not the brightest of a generation, the most important thing is the social connection. They train with the one they know, and they will never go to a fitness center and come there alone to start up in the wrong clothes and all what is wrong. But if they stay in the social groups they have started with, we know that this has an effect on many of them.
I have the impression that Professor Dorner wants to confirm this, because I think what you just said, Niels, I mean, education is important, but at the same time it has its limitations. I think this has very much to do with the theory you presented, the intrinsic, the internal health resources, which are important, and education is one of them. But there are also external ones, and for a long-term change, probably these external factors need to be tackled too. But I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes, I think you're right. Education is important, but if every person would have an education in the highest level, this would not automatically mean that every person would have the same health status. Of course, it has not. And of course, besides of these internal burdens and resources, there are also those external burdens. And as I spoke, if you want to promote physical activity, especially in subjects with a lower socioeconomic status, it is not important to make a cheap fitness center or so, but it is important to promote, for example, how to come from A to B physically active. And that it is cheaper than to drive the car, that is better for the health, and that is also faster. But we need, on environmental level, we need the Voraussetzungen? Preconditions for that, of course, yes. And we have to lobby for those preconditions, I think. This is also part of health promotion.
There was another question.
My question goes to Mr. Westergaard. I would be interested if you have experience with addiction to computer games, because I feel this is very common under our youth and also keeps them many hours sitting and away from healthy activities. And also I had the impression that the colors in the graph of your online games were similar to the ones of computer games. So I would be interested if this was an intention or if it is a casualty. So please, may you comment on this?
We have one aim saying that the day educational material is just as exciting as FIFA 2010. If you know this game, FIFA 2010, all the boys play football. That will be the day when my son will be a professor of mathematics, because he will work with it 5-6 hours a day. Yes, we are involved in learning games. We have just received the biggest improvement we have ever received. 15 million, 2 million euros to start developing learning games. And we do it, this is on the more complicated level, but we also do it now when we start to use simple learning game as let the students make their own game. There are so much freeware on the net that you can create your own learning games and use the students as the producers of these learning games. And the reason why we set up this pedagogical learning setup is that we have a lot of students who are at 18, but the skills or the knowledge is on the same level as the little sister. So we have 18-year-old boys reading the same books as the sister on 13, and it's not something that you can be proud of. So we have turned around. You are not a consumer of learning materials when you are 18. You are a producer of learning material to your sister. So you learn while you produce, and this has become more and more common attitude when we meet the students, to bring them in as producers instead of being consumers of learning materials, because you learn the same if you consume or you produce, but it is more proud when you go to a discotheque and say, I am a producer of learning material, than I am reading the same books as my sister on 13. And it has been a huge success on these what you can call disadvantaged students, to bring them out of the classroom and put them into a production unit. And so we are experimenting, but it is on the very beginning about learning games. But I think it will be big. But that's, I think, the main problem is that in the pedagogical world we are the biggest in Denmark, and we have 3 multimedia designers. The problem is that we need 15. You need production environments, innovative environments in pedagogical area much bigger to make things so exciting as the private game players can do, because they are big. So it should be a national, because no college can afford to have many people.
One comment on that. There's an ongoing discussion in the scientific community regarding physical activity, and a disputation between reducing inactive time, reducing sedentary time, versus increasing physical activity level. And usually recommendations focus on increasing physical activity, because the evidence is clear that increasing physical activity is good for health and reduces disease burden and reduces mortality. But in the last year, there have been published more and more papers about the health impact on reducing sedentary time in leisure time. And the conclusions of most of those papers were we should also focus our recommendations on reducing the sedentary time, especially leisure time, but also reducing time sitting in a job in front of screens and so on. But it's, of course, difficult to implement, especially in a job.
Or to reducing time where you sit in conferences. We may make a tiny attempt at this and give you later on after lunch, after hopefully good lunch, some 5 minutes of practical exercise for ourselves here, but also something as a small input, how easy this can be done with your students. Yeah. Maybe one question to you, Jane. You were talking a lot about health promotion activities towards your students. Is there also a staff dimension in the Healthy College? Following the principle, well, if the staff are to promote healthy lifestyle, they need to have a healthy lifestyle themselves, and you need to do what you preach.
My view on health is very holistic, so I will be talking about something and everybody will be going, but what's that got to do with health? For me, health and happiness are interrelated massively. So if you have happy staff, they not only are healthier in mind, but they will also more likely to be getting engaged in what you put on. So like I said, when I came and started the Healthy College initiative, there were mass redundancies and big changes in the college, and people were unhappy. So for me to start saying, do you want to come to Zumba? They were saying no. So raising the morale of the staff and making them happy was key. So I still go in to this day to the staff inductions for all the new staff, and I sit down and I talk to them about Healthy College, and I say Healthy College is not about me telling you to be healthy. It is about just giving you a choice, saying that we care about you and that we want to put these health initiatives there if you would like to partake in them. But the other thing I would like to do is I want to know what you're about. So we've created some clubs in the college, one of which is a chess club, another of which we had was a knitting club, and a book club. So we've got these different types of clubs. So what happens is a new person comes to the college and straight away they can start a club up, I'll help them, and they can meet like-minded people like that. Out of all those staff, they can then suddenly home in on the people that are very of the same ideas as them. And I said it doesn't matter what this club is. It could be a motorcycle club, a cheese and wine club. We don't care. As long as you're happy and you're healthy and you're meeting people here that you get on with, that's fantastic. So that was my view on to get people happier, healthier, and getting the staff engaged, because I'm not telling them to eat apples and oranges and have the 5 a day, because I don't want to hear that. But it's almost like, you're sort of going in through a back door and they're like, oh, I like this Healthy College, because I can have my cheese and wine and I can meet other people who like doing the same thing, or I can go to we can have a movies club. So that's my Healthy College. That's what I feel a Healthy College is. And that's how I got the staff on board. And then they will come to me and say, will you come into my class and talk to my students? Whereas before they wouldn't. So.
What's more difficult, to motivate the students or the colleagues?
Colleagues.
I had a suspicion that it would be like that, yeah.
I have a question for Jane. Jane, what could you observe before and after? You were talking about, you are just promoted this subject, but I would like you to answer my question before and after. What happened after you launched this subject at your college?
The time when I launched the Healthy College, it was not a good time, and I was sending out emails to everybody in the college, say from the brand Healthy College, and everybody's thinking, what is this? We're not a Healthy College, but it had to start somewhere. I had to start talking about it at some point. So at first it was very hard, and I felt that I came across a lot of mountains to climb and a lot of sort of doors shut in my face, and I had to really work to get people on board. And I went around the college and I would talk to the catering, the security, safety, health and safety, the directors, and I would get all the people around the top involved, and we had well-being meetings, and eventually you just chip away, and you start to bring people around, but it does take time, and you will find that if you do come across resistance. I don't know if you've ever started talking to somebody about health and they don't like it. Have you ever found that? And it's like it almost gets the back up. It's like, well, you don't have to tell me what to do. I know what you know. And you find that when you're doing it. So you've got to be so gentle and careful and just do it in a very nice way. But yes, it was hard at first. Now, so I was doing all the work, but what's happened now is that everybody comes to me. Oh, I'm doing a marathon, can you promote it? Can you get me sponsors? Everybody is emailing me now, and it's a completely different change, yeah. So somebody said to me it would take you 2 years to do this. I thought, I'll do it in 6 months, it'll be easy. It was 2 years, definitely. So it does take time, but if you do it without telling people what to do, and you do it in a very nice way, it will be more well received. And do it fun. Fun is the best way to do it, with humour and fun.
Thank you. I just have to get rid of one question I immediately wrote down when you, after I think 2 or 3 minutes of your presentation, you very convincingly showed that, okay, there clearly are health effects of the social economic status, but quite different with men rather than women. Can you explain?
This is a very good question, but very difficult to answer. I can't prove why these sex differences are in the that women are apparently more affected by the socioeconomic status, or the socioeconomic status more affects women regarding health status than men. I just have hypotheses about that, and one hypothesis is that women are more health conscious usually than men, and lifestyle is more important for women than for men. And the hypothesis is that every aspect that affects lifestyle does affect, therefore, women more than men. And this includes also the socioeconomic status. This is just a hypothesis, I can't prove this, but it is not only in Austrian data, but also in international data, always the case.
If that hypothesis is true, this would, and clearly the data, I mean, this is true, that there is a significant difference. What consequences would this have for health education and for health promotion? A gender, would also need a gender approach at health education, wouldn't it?
I think health promotion has to be sex-specific or gender-specific. And some lifestyle measures have more effect on women and some have more effect on men. For example, it is always physical activity that is a more important issue for men, and it's always nutrition that is a more important issue for women. And this is also be addressed sex-specifically, of course, yeah.
I mean, there's kind of contradiction in that, because we see, you have said that women are more conscious about health and more concerned about it. So I guess that they are more informed about it also. But on the other side of the medal is that they are not as healthy, let's say, as men. So that would mean, as a consequence, that less you are informed, less you feel that you are. So, but of course, this is the wrong conclusion. But if you see it like this would mean, okay, because we have been discussing this aspect also yesterday. We had that gender-specific education is important in health education, and we were saying that women do care more about health, do more about health, go more often to see a doctor perhaps, and men do not do those things. But then it's interesting to see those figures. I think this isn't that a contradiction somehow? Or is it just subjective that they are more?
I don't think that this is a contradiction, because you're right, women are believed to be more health conscious, and women have also a healthier lifestyle. But the data show that if women are affected by lower education, this has a greater impact on health and on health issues compared to men with lower socioeconomic situation. So this is the reason why it is not necessarily a contradiction.
Yes, that was a very interesting aspect, because I was asking myself during your presentation, that fits to your question, Sabine, that looking at the prevalence of diabetes and the educational level on school, we see that really women are more affected than men But, and that is a really big question mark for me, when looking at the Matura, the higher level, and education after Matura, it switches. It's the other way around. I can't imagine what's in the back. Could you please add a conclusion there?
Yes, the data in this regard are quite clear. The reasons behind that are not.
Thank you for this honest answer.
When we look on your figures, and they are very much alike in Denmark, we have explained that what we are looking at is also the result of your race. What do you bring into your adulthood when you are 40, 50 of sports activities? Do you have a tradition? And in Denmark it has normally been the way that boys are more sports activity and they bring it into the adult life, more than where women stops when they are 16, 18, and you can see this as an impact on why does it change. But that's exactly not what's count for high educated women. And in Denmark we also believe that something that brings you good through school, gymnasium, is that if you are physical, if you keep your physical activity, become sporty, you will also manage better in school. So there is some kind of connection between how do we raise our children to be, are we only physical active or sports active while we are children, or will we stop? And that's somehow has an influence.
So women need more sports, we men need more education. But there was another question in the back.
Die Problemzonen in allen diesen Bereichen sind ja mehr oder weniger, je größer die Stadt, desto größer die Probleme. Großstädte sind hartes Pflaster und beim harten Pflaster beginnen wir beim Schuhwerk und allen gesundheitlichen. Das kommt mir jetzt nur so im Augenblick. Diskutiert. Da beginnt die Haltung und daraus resultieren viele, viele andere Probleme und Folgen.
I understood the question in this way that we should not focus on the treatment of diseases and not focus on prevention of disease, but the basis is to promote health independently from disease. And this is also a message I would like to deliver. I think this is true. The basis is to promote health independently from diseases. And I think this is also the reason why we are here. And this is also the reason for the Healthbox, to promote health and not just to focus on disease control. So thank you for this amendment.
1, 2, and 3. The 3 last questions.
I still wanted to comment on this gender issue. In Austria, we are for many years discussing the gap, the salary gap between men and women. So does this mean that women generally have a lower social economic status? And I think that we still have very traditional role models that are still not.
Thank you. Yeah, this would be one more external factor of this whole thing. Sorry, it was you.
In your presentation, you use for make difference between women and men two chronic disorders. Diabetes mellitus and pain. But if you will make difference between sex using the heart attack or stroke or another acute problems, the difference I think will be for the men or not for the big, the largest part.
Yes, thank you. Of course, you're right. There are diseases in which women are more affected than men, and there are, of course, diseases in which men are more affected than women. And if it comes to, for example, ischemic cardiovascular mortality, for example, heart attack and so on, men are more affected than women. But the influence of socioeconomic circumstance and socioeconomic position also with diseases in which men are more affected than women, I think it will be more or less the same. So you would also see, and we see it in Austrian data, we also see a greater influence of socioeconomic status on the risk of coronary heart disease in women than in men. Although men are affected in all strata compared to women in, for example, heart attack.
One last question.
I guess mine wasn't more a question but a statement actually, because what I've been hearing is in relation to the challenges of how we're going to enable people to become more healthy and therefore less at risk of lifestyle diseases. And I guess it's the two sides of one coin really, in as much as do we enforce or do we empower and encourage, and I think that's the challenge. But I think the key was something that Thomas said earlier, which was about gratification. And actually I think that's somewhere in the bottom of this is lying that actually there's got to be some level of gratification, whether you're male or female actually, that there's some outcome to this. And that, you know, to be healthy is a feeling. You know, it's I feel healthy, so therefore, going back to what Jane was saying, I feel happier, so therefore I can function.
Thank you, Diane. So yes, our job is to empower and encourage people to acquire more healthy lifestyles. Gratification will come by itself. I don't think this can be done. Yes, exactly. This cannot be artificially created. Just one last question to each of you to sum this up. In what way, looking to the future, in which ways can social medicine and adult education, these two areas, cooperate with each other in bringing about some of these changes we've discussed? Do you have a vision here?
The cooperation between social medicine, between social medicine and education is necessary. Of course it is. The way in which we can cooperate is, for instance, Veranstaltungen wie diese. We see our purpose in social medicine to provide scientific evidence for that what you apply. I think this is the main focus of the cooperation.
I apologize for this really difficult final question. I think if you had thrown it back to me or to other adult educators, we wouldn't have sort of the spontaneous answer to this either. But what has showed, what your presentation has shown to me is that I think we as educators can benefit a lot from your research results in social medicine, and you need to get your research results in social medicine across to people like us, because we can spread it among the learners. And I think this interdisciplinary cooperation can be a very fertile one for both sides.
And we profit from your experiences.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to find an easier question for you, Jane. At the institutional level, what would be steps forward in order to promote healthy lifestyles among students and staff?
I think it's going to be a lot easier now that we've got the healthy schools in place. So if you go from the kindergarten to the schools, to the colleges, to the universities, and into work life, everything is going to be so much easier because they are taught it from an early age, and they're coming through the schools now, and they've got used to it. It's not as much of a shock. I don't know if you saw all the bad publicity that went on when they first introduced it. Big resistance, but that's very much calmed down. It's very much accepted now. So as they're coming through and out of the schools now, they're already thinking that way. So it's a lot easier. So if we can keep doing what we do in the college and healthy universities can do their bit and we can get it more in the workforce as well, the whole culture then changes, and then we don't have to talk about diseases anymore. We're in the culture of being healthy, and it's quite the norm, and exercising is the norm. And the other thing I was going to say, Diane, was about enforcing and people coming through it voluntarily. We found in the college that when we take a class into the boxing ring and they have to go, not into the ring to fight, just to exercise and keep fit, what we find is they wouldn't have gone there on their own, but once you take them there by the hand and say, no, we are going, they will then go on their own afterwards, and they love it. And then they feel fantastic. So I think just sometimes that little push at the beginning, they love it afterwards, and then they will carry on going. So sometimes it's a little bit of both.
Thank you very much, and also thank you very much for this very inspiring and very lively input how health issues can be brought into an institution. And I think we can learn a lot from this British example, and I think we will discuss some ways how we might be able to transfer, this institutional approach at spreading health in further education, how we could perhaps bring that to other countries like Austria and like other ones in a new project, because I think so far we lack this institutional approach. At adult education, we have initiatives at school level, yeah, okay, but we lack a sort of like a quality management approach or an environmental management approach, a health management approach at institutional level. Niels, now there's one for you. In terms of pedagogy, in terms of new educational approaches, also making use of multimedia, what are the next steps? How can sort of innovative teaching and learning methodologies be spread and be made the normal way of promoting health?
But what I can see is, I think the next step in the pedagogical approach, combining physical exercise, multimedia, is to have a more wide range attitude to education, that it is more holistic, that we need to have focus on social competences, psychological competences. We have had that for the last 50 years, and now we need also to integrate that. It's a normal part of any education, of any labor, that I can hear myself say to all our supplementary people, all our professionals on supplementary training today. I said 10 years ago that it is just as important to think about your physical competences as an area for supplementary training as all the rest of your skills as a nurse or anything else. So to bring in that I'm also a physical person who comes to job. We have this, we were does it mean measuring how quick does you move. We had this attitude that yes, students who move, if you move this way, then you can also only do half the task you can do. And it means something into work, how you move, how fast do you move. And I think one of the steps will be that we eliminate the classroom. I think that will be what we see for the next 10 or 15 years, to ask 25 young people sit down in a table and a chair for 6 hours. This is, now we have been doing that for 150 years. I think we will do something else for the next 150 years.
Thank you very much indeed to all three of you. I think this was an extremely interesting session, and extremely interesting also to bring together these different perspectives. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much also to our two interpreters. I think the job was not easy. Also in terms of acoustics, in terms of different levels of language, I think you did extremely well. And thank you very, very much. Would you please all give your headsets back to the registration desk? Otherwise we'll have to pay for them, and they're expensive. And we've heard several times this morning that nutrition is important. We'll have a workshop on it later on. But first, we have some practical exercise on nutrition. We would like to invite you to lunch in the back part of the restaurant, and we'll come back. Well, we are not that late, we are 8 minutes late, so we'll come back 2:10 and restart at 2:10. Thank you very much.